Hello everyone, namaste. I'm happy to introduce you today Bhupender from India. His spiritual name is Adi. He's a Vedanta sadhaka and scholar. And he has been teaching multidisciplinary yoga for more than 6 years and practicing for more than 18 years now. To know more about him or our future talks, please visit our website, WeLoveYoga.lu. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me again, and thank you for your We Love Yoga community to invite me and have a talk with you on Vedanta.
Happy to have you here. So let's begin directly with one important question that it's probably in many people's minds. What is Vedanta?
So begin with, like, as the talk is on Vedanta, so we have to start with this question because it becomes pertinent. Generally, people have confusion as to what this word is, what this concept is, what actually Vedanta entails, what all it encompasses, what is the terms and different terminologies, what are the basic concepts involved in this word in its study. Vedanta as a word, the general understanding that we have, and we will see in most of the uh, information or videos available on different social media platforms, they will always say, and which is not wrong, they will say that it is a combination of two words. It's a sandhi, actually, Veda plus Anta, Vedanta. So Veda, as we know, and most people know, it is uh, the text, the very strict scripture on which the entire philosophical knowledge of India is. So we have four books of Vedas generally as written: Rig, Yajur, Sam, and Atharva. Anta means end. That is the literal translation what we are looking at right now. So by end, what they mean is not the end of Vedas, as many would say, but which comes at the end of Veda. You can understand it in this way as also that after this there is nothing else left to be known. So that's why some people also say the end of Vedas, as in now you don't have to go any further. And also, as far as the section of the Vedas are concerned, Vedanta or that section of the Veda, which is called Vedanta, comes at the end. So by the word also people understand, and that's how the language is designed. Language Sanskrit that we are talking of right now, it is very logical and scientific in the nature that the word itself will explain you what it is. We just have to know the root of it and from where it is originating. So in this way, Vedanta, the literal translation becomes this: the end of Vedas, or in another word, that which comes at the end of the Vedas. Now, at the end of the Vedas, as in what? Vedas generally in section are divided or studied to be as first called the Karma Kand. The Kanda means the part which is focused upon action, karma. Then comes the Upasana Kand. Upasana generally is the word that is corresponded, which is corresponding to the concept of practice or a sadhana. All these can be interchangeably used. And then comes the Jnana Kand, which is the knowledge part. Jnana Kand is nothing but Vedanta. Another word that is used for Jnana Kand is Upanishad. So all the Upanishads that we have seen, there are 108 as they say. There were many, but 108 main, which are, I think, still to be found. And out of those, some of them on which the commentaries has also been written. So out of those 108 in particular is called Upanishads. So all of them were coming from this section of Vedas, which is the Jnana Kand, the Jnana section of the Veda. Another word for it, as we know, Vedanta, which is a popular word. Now it becomes a broader school, and that broader school is called Vedanta. And in that broader school, we have other sub schools also, which we'll see later. So this is another understanding that we can come out of it. Now, Jnana, the word we understand is knowledge. The word it's translated as knowledge. So the knowledge section of Vedas is another way to understand this. Now, what is Vedanta? We have already seen two ways to understand it. Another way to understand it, or another word that can explain Vedanta is a Shastra. Now, Shastra, if you have to understand in a simple word, can be equated to a book, but it's a simplified understanding. We can call it a book. But what do we mean by book? Another word that can come into your mind can be a repository. Repository means anything that has everything involving of that subject. But what is the subject here? The subject is Vedanta. Another word for that same subject is, actually there are two words, but generally one is mainly used, Brahma. Brahma or Brahman, another word that is used for it. But Vedanta or Vedas in particular deals with two things in general, Dharma and Brahma or Brahman. Now that subject hence is called, which is Vedanta, Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya, if we translate it into English, is called self-knowledge. So a subject pertaining to self-knowledge. Now let's understand it from a simplified way. Anybody who has studied, which most of the population in the world have, and as I was from a science background, so I would relate from a science background and give an example from there itself. Let's take a subject called physics. Physics generally is understood as a subject pertaining to the physical world, a subject of physical phenomena which deals with the study of matter is what physics is. Now, to study physics or to understand the physics in entirety, we have to pick up a book which gives us everything about physics. Then only somebody can say that they have studied the physics completely. So that particular book or that particular repository or that particular person or that particular source will become the Shastra of physics. Just for an example, if somebody says F is equal to ma, force is equal to mass into acceleration, the constant mass of an object into acceleration. So this is what we understand by that formula. It is the fundamental formula for the basic mechanics, which we can find in physics. But if somebody says where I can find this source of this formula, most of the people in the world will point that person to go grab a elementary school physics book where you will find that formula. Same way, anything pertaining to Vedanta Shastra or anything pertaining to self-knowledge, as they say, as the word which is very famous, the person will have to pick up the book or will have to pick up the Vedanta Shastra. Through this, we understand that the Shastra, that subject or that the repository will give you a topic or will explain you a subject which is called self-knowledge, and that is what Vedanta is. So another understanding of Vedanta is Brahma Vidya. So we can understand through these three simplified information or simplified uh, definition of it. First, that we saw Vedanta, then we saw Upanishad, and then we saw this last, which is the uh, about the subject of it, which is self-knowledge.
So you mentioned earlier that there are different sub-schools of Vedanta. Can you please give a little bit more details on this?
Sure. So basically, there are three different sub-schools, or as they say, the metaphysical thought. Now, we have already seen the example of physics as subject, which is, pertains to physical world. Now, Vedanta deals with the metaphysical world, which is obviously pertaining to the physical world, but goes beyond the physical also, which talks about the energy and something beyond energy also, which is talking about the mind and something beyond mind also. Now, there are three major sub schools of Vedanta, and pertaining those three sub schools, there are three main acharyas also. And sometimes those schools are also known by their name. So the first school, I'm not giving the chronology. I mean, it comes in that order also, as far as the timeline is concerned. But not withstanding that, the acharya for Advaita Vedanta, the first school is Adi Shankracharya. Then we have second school, which is Vishishtadvaita, or the sometimes in English they are called refined Advaita Vedanta or refined Vedanta. It's Ramanujacharya. And then the third, which is Dvaita, is Madhavacharya. So sometimes you will hear students of their school or people from different schools would address Advaita Vedanta as Adi Shankracharya's Vedanta. So they will not say Advaita Vedanta. They will not use the particular word because the teacher is of such a large scale. The teacher has such a great impact into the philosophy of India, into the uh, propagation of this knowledge, that the school itself will be called by the name of that teacher. So, in the same way, people will say Ramanujacharya's Vedanta, which is obviously Vishishta Vedanta or Vishishtadvaita. And then comes the Madhavacharya or Madhavacharya's Vedanta, which is Dvaita. So, Advaita Vedanta means non-dualism. Vishishta Advaita means refined Vedanta or refined non-dualism, and then we have dualism or duality as we know. That is Madhvacharya. So these are the three main schools. Now these three main schools, just to give you a brief on all these three, we can't explain them in entirety. Just by an example, we'll understand. To see this, how do these acharyas have proceeded, or how do these metaphysical thought or metaphysical vision see the world. Shankaracharya's Vedanta or Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual world or the non-dual existence, see the individual self or the individual or a particular human being as nothing but the entirety. So Shankaracharya would say, or Advaita Vedanta would say that you are nothing but that alone. In simplified form, you will hear all these sentences, you are that, or I am that. All these statements we are very fond of, or we would very commonly hear them. This is what the basic idea of the Advaita Vedanta school or Shankaracharya school. If you have to understand it in a graphical way or in a representational way, you draw a circle and somebody would ask what it is, you would say, this is what existence is, this is what you are. Now, what Ramanujan would come and draw a smaller circle within that circle and would say that, no, you are not a big circle, you are part of that big circle. So that small circle is within that big circle, and that small circle is nothing but that human being. And we have that right now. I think as far as the population goes, we have 7.6 billion plus population in the world. So you can draw 7.6 billion small dots within that big circle. So that is what Ramanujan is trying to say, or Vishishta Advaita is trying to say, the second school, second sub school. Now, the important point to note is Shankaracharya was saying you're not separate from it. Madhavacharya is saying, see, you are a part of it, but you are also separate from it. You can't consider yourself to be Bhagavan or Brahman, as they say. Shankracharya was saying you are nothing but Brahman. Atman is nothing but Brahman. Now Madhavacharya would come and will say that same dot, it is can be within, can be outside also. He would not say outside, but he would say you are part of it, but you are not that. That is how duality works. There is a separation. There is a constant separation. You can't say I am God. It can, some might even go to an extent and say it is disrespect to Bhagavan, or it is disrespect to divinity, calling yourself as that divine entity or that divine concept or universe per se or the world per se, the creation per se or the creator. This is the small distinction that they have. But the underlying understanding of all these three subschools and other subschools also, if there are, for this metaphysical thought is that they are all like a stepping stone, or they are all like nothing but a step in the ladder of evolution. So if let's say there is a ladder and there are three steps, there is a Madhavacharya's Dvaita, then there is Vishishtadvaita, and then there is Advaita. We can understand it through this representation also. Dvaita will take you up to the first step and tell you that you are this and creation or the creator is that. The total service of that creation or the total service of Bhagwan or the total service of everything created of that Bhagwan, created of that creation is the purpose. The concept of service is still there, but no matter what you will do, you cannot call yourself nothing other than that divine. Then comes Ramanujan, says that no, you are part of that only, that divinity resides in you also. But Bhagwan or Brahman, as they say, or some other word if they use, they will use Ishvara and whatnot. They, Ramanujan would say that you cannot call yourself beyond time and space. It is existentially impossible as far as human being is concerned, is what Ramanujan is trying to say. And then Shankracharya would come and break all these barriers and take another leap of faith, if you want to call it, and take us a little more further and would say that no, you are nothing but that entity as a whole. And anything that you understand other than that, that you are this limited existence, that no, you cannot be that. How can I be beyond time and space? How can I know everything? I know only this. Whatever I studied in the morning, I forget in the afternoon. How can I be something of that caliber that all the time, everything I will remember? That is what Ishvara is. That is what Bhagavan is, so to say, in the concept. How can I be? These are the pertinent questions. These are the existential questions, or these are the everyday questions that we face with, and that's why we feel limited. The basic physics formula that we were talking about initially in the session, F is equal to ma. Some people might have studied in their elementary school, but as after 10 years down the line, they might forget that formula also. So because of all these things, because we think even our memory is limited, we see the world to be linear. When we see our life, we see, oh, the life started somewhere when I took birth and it will end somewhere. So we see the limitation. And when we see all these limitations, we think that what is this person trying to tell us? What this guy is actually trying to say, that we are, that it doesn't seem plausible. It doesn't seem practically possible. But that is what Shankracharya is trying to tell us. And that is the last step, beyond which, as the famous concept goes, the enlightenment or self-realization or illumination, all those transcendental, if you have heard of this transcendental existence, where we transcend, where we as the mind, the intellect transcends. That is what Shankaracharya is trying to tell us, or that metaphysical thought or that metaphysical school, that school or that darshana is trying to show us, is what actually these sub schools are. nothing more and nothing less. To understand all these three schools in a short duration or with basic understanding is what that, and I've always find that circle example to be most apt and most simple. So this is what the sub schools of Vedanta are: Advaita Vedanta, Vishishtadvaita, and then uh, Madhavacharya's dualism or duality.
If we think in terms of the source, what can we say is the source of Vedanta?
Source of Vedanta is the end section of Vedas. There is no other source as far as the knowledge base is concerned. Just as uh, any subject will have its source in the book that it entails or that section. Let's say I have to, like in India, especially, that was the case that if somebody has to take a science stream after high school or after 10th, as we would say, 10th standard. So they would say physics, chemistry, and maths, or physics, chemistry, biology. Then in that subsection, we'll have medical and non-medical. So PCM, physics, chemistry, maths will become non-medical, and physics, chemistry, biology will become medical. Now, all those three combined represent science as per this idea of school, as per the subject. Similarly, to understand all those three subjects, I'll have to go to a particular book, which is uh, recommended by my school or which is part of my syllabus. Similarly, to study Vedanta, I'll have to go to that section of Vedas, which is the last part, from where I will get the knowledge of this subject. So for Vedanta, Vedas becomes the source. To give you an example, to give you a name of one particular Vedanta Shastra, another word for it is Upanishad. So one of the most famous Upanishads is Chandogya Upanishad. Now the Chandogya Upanishad comes from Samaveda. So from where in Samveda, again, the last part of, so to say, the knowledge part of or the knowledge section of Samaveda is from where you will find the Chandogya Upanishad. And similarly, others also. There are many others. So this is what we can understand by the word source. But now somebody can ask, what is the source of Veda? Because then that can be the next question, and people can ask, what is the source of Veda? Vedas are generally seen as it was generally understood. Now it is in the written form, but generally was understood as nothing but another word for Veda is Anushravika. That you say and that you hear also. So you say it and you hear it on your own voice. That becomes Anushravika, the word itself meaning that only. So Vedas were always nothing but sound. It's one of the understanding I'm giving. So in the comment section, people can come and say that, oh, it is something other than this also. But no, it is other than that also. But this is one of the understanding, one of the core understanding of Vedas. It is always the sound, which obviously was written later on by Ved Vyasa into 4 parts. So that sound itself, which is nothing but this entire creation, the universe that we are existing in, if at all we are existing, is what Veda is. But in the written form, we have 4 parts: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda, or Atharvana Veda, as they say. So this is actually the source, and I mean, it might become a little too technical. I'm not sure whether it is appropriate for our audience or not. But again, as the source of Vedanta is Veda, and Veda, the subject matter of Veda is in, there is a beautiful definition in Sanskrit. It's called Laukik Vishaye Vedaha Pramana. Now, Laukik means worldly. Alaukik means beyond worldly. Now, that doesn't mean that Veda doesn't have worldly things or worldly matters. But what they are trying to say is Alaukik Vishaye Vedaha Pramana. Vishaya means subject or a concept or an idea. So anything beyond the world, the pramana, the proof of it is Veda. And those two things we have already seen, and we have already discussed in or mentioned in this video is Dharma and Brahma. Not the Brahmadev, but Brahma, the concept, Brahman. Dharma and Brahma is the two alokik Vishaya that you will find in Veda. And that is the source. And that is why the same thing percolates in Vedanta also, which is Upanishad. And that is how we can understand what is Vedanta, what are the sub schools, what are the different sources, what is the source of Vedanta, and that source of Vedanta, which is Veda, from where that is emanating. So, this is what we have to understand by this, all these three questions that you have put across. And we have we have the opportunity to discuss here. So, thank you for asking these questions, and I would also like to extend my gratitude that you guys invited me for this talk. I hope that we continue this talk and we can speak more about all these things. And I'm sure people will also have further questions to uh, put, as we know, you also know, and people across the world would know that it is an interesting subject, and uh, there the questions can be endless. But if we keep things simple, we understand things from the basics and understand the source, so that we can keep that source as a basis and then understand things, then we will not waver. Then we'll always go back to the source for the confirmation. If I have to understand what is acceleration, I have to open the physics book. I cannot open a chemistry book and start searching for it. The chemistry book will never give me the definition of what is acceleration. Physics book will give. So that is what we have to understand.
Thank you very much for joining, and thank you everyone for following us, and hope you found this video very useful for you. We cover the basic of Vedanta, and if you are interested to know a little bit more, please follow us on social media channels, and please give us a thumb and subscribe. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste. Namaste.